I saw these questions a lot from my comments and DMs. People asking, they're so nervous in talking to a real English speaker when first faced with them. They don't know how to communicate with them. They don't know how to present themselves, even though they've been learning English for so long. And this comes from mostly people who have never been abroad, never spoke to a foreigner, particularly an English speaker. So this video is made for those who are pretty entry level in talking to foreigners, even though some of you might be already in a foreign country and you're the foreigner, but you get the idea. And before we get into it, if you're new here, my name is Carl, and on this channel I make mostly English content on careers, communication, English learning, as well as some of my personal learnings. So if these are something you're probably interested in, feel free to follow me. Now let's just dive in. So I'd say the first thing here is literally everyone was making when they first get started, especially if you're learning English in an Asian country. It's like you are afraid of making mistakes. When you're having a real conversation, when you're trying to achieve a certain result, your attention should be on trying to get your point across and achieve the result. For example, if you're traveling, right, you're asking someone how to get somewhere, or how do I get to this location, or like what's the earliest bus available, what subway line should I be taking to get to this place, etc. That is your goal. That is the information you're trying to find. And you should not be worrying about how to structure that sentence. And I think people are making that mistake because throughout their whole journey of English learning, their teacher has just been pretty hard on them. The way they measure the English is by exams. So then they feel like they have to use the perfect sentence, use the most accurate word, use the correct tense to express those things. But in reality or real communication, people are not really that hard on you. For example, if you're asking how to get somewhere, that's just like a pretty common thing, right? And then you don't even need a full sentence to make people understand. And honestly, I think this is the main reason people are either staggering or stuttering or just like frozen middle way through. They don't know what to say because they want to say the perfect sentence. They don't want to make any grammar mistakes. They want to have some great accent. They want to get rid of their, for example, Chinese accent, just because you want to sound perfect. But realistically, your level is not perfect yet because you're not a native speaker. And honestly, if you're not a native speaker and English is your second language, there's no way you can be perfect. The definition of being perfect is just too unrealistic and doesn't make any sense for you to achieve that. So I would say just embrace your identity as someone that's been learning, so that's easier for you to get the communication going. And I think this identity thing is actually pretty big, and that actually brought me to the times where a month ago when I was solo traveling in Mexico City. And the interesting thing was, before I go, I actually didn't do too much research, and I was under the impression that the city kind of speaks English. I know most of the times people speak Spanish, but like at least I can find someone who speaks English. But then I was actually wrong. The first day when I was there, when I was at the airport, all the way to the hostel, all the different restaurants, shops, like there's literally no one speaking English. But looking back, I honestly didn't have too much communication issue because I was using Google Translate combined with lots of body language, facial expression, to get my points across. I was able to navigate my way around. I was able to find my hostel, get on a taxi, and also asking, where can I get some late night food, etc. And I think the reason was I was actually okay with my identity. I was fully comfortable with it. I literally learned Hola the first day I got to Mexico City. It's like I knew zero Spanish before I got there. I'm just like, I am someone that doesn't speak Spanish at all. So it's like I'm totally okay with using Google Translate and body language. With some broken Spanish I learned on the spot because I was fully comfortable with myself being someone that knows zero Spanish. But then in the English context, a lot of times people think they should know this, they should know that, they should not make mistakes. It's like they have high standard, but realistically, they're not there yet. So I would say lower the mental bar that you have in your brain. And I think that will actually set you free in being able to talk. And the second mistake here is pretending that you understand. And I get it, a lot of times people might be speaking too fast, or they have some accent, or you don't know a certain word. And it's pretty common in a conversation that you fail to understand a certain part or even everything of what someone said. This was actually a mistake I was making a lot when I first moved abroad. Like I was pretending that I know what they're talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. Where honestly, I was just like half guessing. And I think back in the days, I was doing that for several reasons. First one was I have some ego. It's like, I don't want people to think, oh, this guy doesn't understand so many things. I have to explain so many things to him. It's so annoying. Like, I don't want people to think that way. And the second reason was I don't want to bother people. I feel like if I always interrupt, be like, hey, can you explain this? Can you say this again? It's gonna bother people. It's gonna make them annoyed. Like, I was kind of ashamed of my broken English. And this was especially true when I was talking in a group. But I do think this is contextual, right? Like sometimes if you're in a more casual conversation where the topic kind of just moves around, you cannot just interrupt people all the way. But a lot of times in something that's more formal, like a business talk or like a group discussion, where it's crucial that you have to understand everything to have that logical connection so you can follow the conversation around. And I think on the flip side, people are just not that dumb. If you're pretending that you understand where you actually don't, people are gonna know, like they're able to tell. So what I would do when I don't understand what people are saying, typically I would quickly make a judgment of whether that's something important. You know, there's sometimes people just mention some very random thing, like out of nowhere, completely makes no sense. Those are things that are usually not that important. I'm probably not gonna ask about it. But then like if I'm following a certain topic and then there's some crucial stuff that I couldn't hear clearly or I simply don't understand, either because they're using some jargon or just like some vocabs I don't even know, I'll just stop them and ask them. Or usually I'll just be like, hey, what do you mean by that? Or I will do a quick rephrase. I'll be like, so what you just mentioned is kind of like, so basically I am saying the same thing in my words and ask them to correct me if I'm wrong. And then I think the easiest way is just for you to say the same thing again if you cannot catch it. It's just like, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, sorry, can you say that again? Or sorry, I didn't catch it. Can you say it again, please? Or just come again. Or sometimes I just say sorry. You know, those are some very simple ways to ask people to say something again. And also there could be times where people just don't say things clearly or they have an accent. If that's the case, I'll probably say something like, sorry, I don't understand. Can you spell that out loud? Or can you maybe show me a picture? Or like, sorry, I don't know that word. You know, just call yourself out. Be like, sorry, my English is not good enough. Or like, that's not part of my vocabulary. Okay, I learned something new, right? Sometimes I'll do things like that. If these people are native speakers, they will understand and they will try their best to make you understand instead of using their jargons. And then I think the last mistake here is a little more subtle, I would say. Something I noticed myself doing back in the days, as well as I also noticed this in other second language speakers, is that we try to match the native speakers oftentimes. It's like they speak pretty fast and we try to match that speed. They speak with high fluency, they use some jargons, and we try to match that, even though that's like way outside of our ability. And that's screwing ourselves up. It's like, it sounds like we're speaking pretty broken English, but in reality, we're actually better than that. I think this happens mostly when you're trying to join a conversation. You know, either there could be a group with existing conversation where like two people are already talking, where you're just trying to basically insert yourself in it. And then oftentimes, if these two people are native speakers, they speak pretty fast. Like they're using different sentences, they're using different vocabs, they're using something that's just making it harder to understand, because you'll probably notice the same thing in Chinese when you're speaking Mandarin. When you're describing something, for example, a story, the way you tell the story with your best friend, with your buddy, is probably different from the way you talk to your teacher, your parents, or even your grandparents, right? When you're telling a story to your grandparents, you probably explain the thing in an easier to understand way, or using simple language or plain terms, and you try to speak slower so they can understand. But then with your buddy, you probably say the same thing in a more insider way. So it's harder for people that's not in your group to understand. And the same thing will happen for English speakers when they're having their language. So my suggestions for this mistake was, you have to be conscious of that, and you have to stick to your own tone, your own speed, to the pace that you're more comfortable with, and then you use your own language to subconsciously make them match you. And I know this might be a little hard to execute in every single conversation, but at least you can be more conscious when you're making this mistake and just calibrate to it, because most of the times it's impossible for us to match every native speaker. when native speakers are trying to say something, they have some thoughts. Those things can naturally just come out. They don't need to put some thoughts into how to structure their language, how to structure their sentence, what are the words they should be using. But I know that's a conscious process for a second language speaker, because inevitably we have to sometimes put some energy and thoughts into what words to use, what are the sentence structure. This will just happen and it will slow us down. So I would say be more grounded and be more comfortable about your own pace and be okay with making people wait for you. And it's okay to speak a little slower. So that's all for today. I hope you like it. And if you like this type of content, feel free to follow for more. And just a side note, I have an English product coming soon, so stay tuned. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next.